As the looming evidence for man-made global warming increases, humankind is being pressured to move towards a cleaner and more sustainable means of producing energy. One such transition currently taking place in Australia is the extraction of coal seam gas, or CSG. CSG is marketed as being a cleaner, greener and cheaper alternative to coal. But what exactly is coal seam gas, and is it a step in the right direction towards clean energy? Coal seams are large pockets of coal that lay below the surface at depths of 300 metres to 1,000 metres. During the process of coalification, the coal seams produce a type of natural gas due to the microbial action as plant matter is converted into coal. The gas is largely composed of methane and is therefore given the name coalbed methane, or more commonly coal seam gas, CSG, as it resides within the pores of the coal and within the cleats. The extracted gas is then either used domestically in gas-powered plants for electricity production or cooled into liquefied natural gas, LNG, and exported all over the world. But how is the gas extracted, and why are people getting so upset about it? Well, the gas is extracted by a large network of small wells. A process of hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, is used to speed up the process of extraction. Firstly, the well is drilled down to the rock strata anywhere from 300 to 1,000 metres. Once the drill reaches the coal seam, it may be drilled horizontally to increase the surface area the well has access to. The well is then pumped with liquid sand mixture at high pressures until the coal seam fractures along small natural lying faults within the coal bed. The pressure is then released and the liquid is removed from the well, leaving behind the sand. The sand holds open these newly made fractures, allowing for the gas to flow out of the well. The liquid cocktail used in fracking consists of a large number of chemicals that act in a way to chemically condense the water, kill off bacteria, and break down any unwanted minerals. The gas is then extracted from the well over a period of 10 to 15 years, depending on how much gas is in the coal seam. Once the well is depleted, the fracking liquid is then pumped back into the well to maintain pressure and to stop any more gas from leaking out. The well is then sealed. Australian coal seam gas is found in the Great Artesian Basin, and currently a majority of coal seam extraction happens in Queensland. The QLD CSG industry has been operating since 2002 and now incorporates approximately 3,249 wells, supplying up to 17% of the state's electricity needs. New South Wales has a much younger CSG industry with only 259 active wells. However, increased community backlash has slowed the growth of the industry, but I'll get into that later. Coal seam gas has been marketed as being a cleaner, greener and cheaper alternative, with common phrases saying it produces half or up to 70% less greenhouse gas emissions when compared to coal. However, the issue is much more complicated than that. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change concluded that over a 20-year time span, methane has as much as 105 times the global warming potential of CO2 and 21 times more than CO2 over 100 years. A recent peer-reviewed paper published by Cornell University studied shale gas wells in the US, which is very similar to coal seam gas extraction in Australia. They noticed that between 3.6% and 7.9% of methane mined from these wells escaped into the atmosphere. The paper concluded that shale gas was significantly worse than conventional gas and at least 20% worse than coal when expressed per quantity of energy available during combustion over a 20-year time frame, and that over a 100-year period that shale gas greenhouse footprint was on par with coal. The current coal seam gas boom in Australia is likely to promote a large economic boom for federal and state governments, as well as local rural towns whom are set to benefit from increased employment, as more than 18,000 jobs in construction are projected in Queensland alone. With 7 huge projects worth $178 billion approved and already under construction, the Australian Petroleum Production and Exploration Association has predicted that the CSG LNG industry over a 25-year period would generate state budget revenue of $26.7 billion in payroll tax and royalties, plus generated GST and federal revenue of $201.6 billion. However, this economic boom does not come without a downside. Once the LNG gas plants come online in 2014, East Coast gas prices are expected to rise by 100%, as for the first time domestic users begin to compete with overseas customers. So to break it down, the gas companies will only sell to domestic users if they pay the same price that international customers are already paying. You may have heard about it on the news, seen protests, or been handed flyers about the negative effects of coal seam gas. But what are they so concerned about? Surely our government wouldn't allow anything dangerous to happen to us, would they? One of the biggest issues surrounding coal seam gas mining is a lack of research showing the environmental impacts of this practice and concern in the hydraulic fracturing process. During the fracking process, a cocktail of chemicals is pumped into the well. The full list of the chemicals used are not known outside the industry as it is regarded as a trade secret. Our own government, the same ones who are issuing licenses to extract coal seam gas, do not know the full extent of the chemicals being pumped into the ground. It is known, however, what some of these chemicals are. Most are biodegradable and non-toxic, some not so much. These chemicals include benzene, toluene, enzylbenzene and xenes, BTEX for short. BTEX chemicals are volatile organic compounds that can be naturally occurring in the coal seam or used in oil-based lubricant. They can have adverse health complications and considered carcinogenic, cancer-causing. Although the use of BTEX in fracking is now currently banned in New South Wales and Queensland, there is still concern that the process of fracking may release naturally occurring BTEX and the small traces from other petroleum-based products used in the well drilling process, contaminating the water. Additionally, Dr. Miriam Lloyd-Smith of the Non-Government National Toxic Network stated that the 23 major chemicals used in the fracking process had not been assessed by any national regulator, and is instead being released into the environment. Furthermore, up to 40% of these chemicals used in the fracking process remain in the coal seam and can move throughout the groundwater, potentially contaminating water supplies. Although no long-term studies of coal seam gas can show us what's going to happen to our environment as a result of fracking, we can look over to the United States where large-scale shale gas mining has been going on since 1940s and today consists of over 500,000 gas wells. And as seen by this map, is largely focused in the states of Texas and Pennsylvania, with fracking happening all over the country. There has been many reports of environmental and public health issues with fracking as suspected cause. Widespread public awareness was brought to the issue through the documentary Gasland by Josh Fox. The movie focused on the issue of methane contamination of drinking water, showing footage of people setting fire to the water coming out of the kitchen taps in both Colorado and Pennsylvania, as well as families suffering from tumours and other illnesses that may have been caused by shale gas drilling near their homes. The documentary prompted moratoriums on fracking and resulted in numerous investigations, consequently drawing large-scale public attention to the issue. But surely, our government wouldn't let this happen to us. Well, they just might be. The CSG Industry Director of the Australian Petroleum Production and Explorations Association, Ross Dunn, said so himself that the coal seam gas industry can't guarantee not to poison the Great Artesian Basin. Fun fact, the Great Artesian Basin is where we live. It's where a majority of Australia lives, collects their water and grows their food. Why are we allowing the government to gamble on our safety when the companies carrying out coal seam gas extraction can't even guarantee they won't poison it? Why are we letting this happen when there are far better options available? Let's just compare with the wise words from Paddy Madding, author of What the Frack. Wind farms versus coal seam gas wells. Both require access to private land, both need tracks between them to connect them to the gas or electricity grid, both have a visual impact. However, wind farms aren't located on our best farming land, don't threaten our water supplies, don't release toxic chemicals into the environment, and provide zero emissions energy for Australians at a time when the battle to limit climate change is getting beyond urgent. After all, at the end of the day, coal seam gas is still another planet-warming fossil fuel. Finally, one last message. As the world's population is expected to reach over 9 billion people by 2050, we should not allow our food production capabilities to be overtaken by a hunger for cheap energy. Coal seam gas. Is it really worth it?